Welcome to Sex at 10. I'm Rebecca Rosenblat, certified relationship and sexuality therapist and your host, here to answer your questions on all things intimate. Whether you're stuck in a relationship dilemma, have issues with your body, trust, trauma, addiction, or orientation, or just need a little help with turning up the heat in your bedroom, give us a shout at 1-800-968-7836 and let's chat. Everything's fair game. If you've thought about it, we can talk about it. Let's begin with a discussion on masturbation. And to help me with that, we're being joined by an expert in the area, Nicholas Tana. Nicholas is a writer, producer, and director of Sticky, a self-love story, the world's first feature documentary on masturbation, which, among other things, includes his interviews with over 60 sexperts. So indeed, we're very excited to have him joining us tonight to deliver some of that expert info that he's gathered on menage-a-mois. Welcome and good evening, Nicholas.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Good. Very excited to be doing this interview with you, so thank you. Nicholas.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Speaking of pleasure, Nicholas, pretty much everyone masturbates, so why is it so taboo to talk about it?
Well, I think a lot of the taboo around masturbation stems from a fear of where the mind can go when it comes to fantasy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the mind can go many places, sometimes places people are uncomfortable with. Sometimes that can involve fantasizing about even your friend's significant other, and or the neighbor, or you know, that religious figure you go to church and see. Who knows? It could be anywhere, and that's how the mind works. Mm-hmm. But as a result, I think people have tend to censor themselves with time, thinking that if they think these thoughts, it's sinful and bad, and that has curbed people's enthusiasm around masturbation.
Exactly. Even though, I mean, those thoughts are there for good reason. It's just like dreams. They just kind of come and go. But lots of people, they become uncomfortable because of who they might be fantasizing about. At times, it's their own partner with 6 other people, or sometimes they may have fantasies that make them feel uncomfortable. It makes them think that, you know, their orientation isn't what they thought it is, or maybe they do fantasize about exactly what the orientation is and they haven't quite come out yet. So I think all those things start to make people feel uncomfortable. So really well put that it's because of where our mind goes. Now, like other taboo topics, there's an underlying fear around whether or not it's okay to indulge. So can you please discuss whether masturbation is healthy or not?
Well, that's a loaded question, no pun intended.
Well, blow it out there.
Well, I think it's sort of like asking the question: is a car dangerous or not dangerous? Mm-hmm. Now, you know, like a car can get you to the hospital if it's an emergency, but also if you're drunk and driving it, it could cause damage. So right. I think the same is true of masturbation. I think for the most part, it's a very healthy behavior, and right. I think for most people that there's a lot of evidence to show it relieves stress, it reduces tension, mm-hmm. It actually allows people to get to know themselves and their body mm-hmm. sexually, and for most people, it's their first sexual experience. They self-de-virginize, so to speak, through masturbation. Mm-hmm. But on the other extent, we did discuss interviews with people that have had compulsive disorders or right. compulsive issues with masturbation, to the extent mm-hmm. where a lot of therapists or psychiatrists and psychologists would say if it's impeding that person's ability to establish a long-term relationship mm-hmm. or to keep a job, that it can become something that is detrimental.
Absolutely. I'm a sex addiction therapist, and one of the things that's exactly what we talk about. It's just like having a glass of wine. It can be quite delightful and it can be healthy, but an alcoholic is obsessed with it. They can't stop themselves, and it's taking over other areas of their lives. And essentially, we're talking about an addictive spin to it, where the person is allowing this thing to extend into other areas of lives, maybe even hinder their relationship. And lots of times when when people masturbate excessively to the exclusion of having partnered sex. I see a lot of people in my practice who will say, you know what, I have a really difficult time orgasming or coming inside my partner. So penetrative sex feels so different from their own touch that they start to find challenges there. So I'm glad that, you know, your movie covers both extents, that yes, it is fun and it's healthy, it mellows us out, and it's great cardiovascular workout, and we get to know ourselves. And if we don't know ourselves, how can we educate our partners? So there's that side, but taken to an extreme, like anything else, it can be detrimental. Can we talk about some of the reasons that people do masturbate? You touched upon it a little bit earlier. Again, no pun intended.
Yeah, there's many reasons for people masturbating. Tension relief, or just to relieve sexual tension, is probably one of the biggest. You know, throughout the day or throughout time, and when hormones build up and we have a lot of sexual tension, and masturbation is a great way to relieve it. Now, oftentimes there's differences in partner levels of attraction, or I wouldn't even say attraction, maybe the levels at which on their bell curve at to which they need sex or require that release. And it's great to kind of balance that out when one partner will choose masturbation, maybe because their level is a little more high, on a different level or higher, or they require more than the other partner. So that's a good way to kind of level things out. In addition, it's often a great way to get to know your own body and what you like. There's a lot of men that learn to masturbate to kind of prevent ejaculating too soon and during intercourse, so they learn to sort of hedge and to retain their orgasm and not slip over. And this is something they can do with themselves or practice with a partner to learn to maintain their erection or before they actually have their orgasm. So that's something that's also quite
that's an important one, because premature ejaculation is such a common issue with a lot of guys, one of the most common issues that men struggle with. So it allows them a venue for just kind of trying to learn how to control their arousal level, bringing it. I always say, you know, if 10 is where it's point of no return, don't wait till 7. So practice on your own, taking your arousal between, say, 2 and 4 or 5, and just kind of learning. And also, like that you said, that when there's a discrepancy in appetites, people are sitting on different parts of the bell curve when it comes to desire, this can supplement, so the person isn't pushing their partner into something that they're not comfortable with. There's also lots and lots of evidence with respect to balancing out hormones, better sleep, better digestion, making us look younger. Were there any others that you wanted to add to that list, Nicholas?
No, I think you've run most of the gamut. I think there's probably reasons why people do it from a physical perspective as well as a psychological, and it can be very personal. And I think that's part of the taboo nature of the subject. That's why I like to call it the world's most popular taboo, because I think there's no other taboo currently existing that is so actually common and in practice. And again, going back to the fantasy being part of the fear. And then there's a lot of morality. We interviewed a lot of religious figures, and half of them said it was a sin, the other half said it wasn't. So this has really impacted our ideas around sexuality and how we feel about ourselves.
Absolutely. Viewers, we'd love for you to join in on our discussion. So grab that phone, call us, whether you're trying to challenge a myth or you have something that you'd like to add, or maybe you have a question for Nicholas or myself. Great time to come to talk to experts and to call and just get in on a discussion. So don't be shy, pick up that phone and let's chat. Now, needless to say, like all things sexual, the public opinion on masturbation, it has changed throughout history. So could you please give us a rundown on that next?
Yeah, I think it sort of has a wacky history, so to speak. I love my puns, if you haven't figured that out yet.
I'm trying to roll with them.
But at one point, it was sort of just a common thing. I mean, back, as we mentioned in the film, back during the Greeks and Romans, it wasn't really anything that was that taboo to speak of. And then at some point in time throughout history, and it was sort of traced back to this Dr. Martin, who equated the act that took place in the Bible with Onan with masturbation and it being a sin. And this person was actually selling anti-masturbation medicines and profiting on it quite a bit. It was around this time, and I believe we're talking like from the 1600s, 1700s is where it really started shifting.
Right.
And there was this taboo idea, and then the Victorian period really kind of cemented it for a while, that masturbation could make you go crazy or blind or mad. But what was ironic about this period is that there was genital stimulation was a medical prescription for women to treat them for what was known as hysteria. So while there was this taboo idea of women should not masturbate and relieve that sexual tension, there was also doctors, male doctors, capitalizing on this and then stimulating their genitals and charging them quite $1 to do so.
For hysterical paroxysms, so that they could give them, I mean, what a great gig if you can land something like that. Now, you've you've written, directed, and produced an amazing movie on the subject matter, so we want to talk with you a little bit about your film. But before that, let's have a look at a clip that sort of gives us a good cross-section.
Warning! There's a plague infecting our nation. Symptoms may include blindness, weakness, madness, or worse, hairy palms. Masturbation madness.
Give me a break. It is no secret. The jig's up. Everybody masturbates.
We know that 80 to 90% of men masturbate, 65 to 70% of women masturbate, and the rest lie. So what are we going to talk about?
The history of masturbation goes back to when man was created.
There are no circumstances under which we can condone masturbation.
If God didn't want us to masturbate, He would have made our arms shorter.
In the particularly 1800s, women would go to their doctors, and the way the doctors would treat hysteria was to manually stimulate their vulvas.
When Alfred Kinsey studied sexual behavior, masturbation was regarded as its own healthy sexual outlet.
Masturbation, like anything else, can be done in excess.
I wanted to see if I could have 20 orgasms in a row, just to see if I could.
20 times a day is taking it a bit too far.
I think almost every instance of masturbation in movies has been displayed as something that someone would be embarrassed to be caught doing.
Paul Rubens is the poster man of the culture's tweaking antipathy about masturbation.
Do Americans have the right to life, liberty, and sex toys?
The law in the state of Alabama says that you cannot sell a vibrator.
Well, when I was asked a question if I felt that we should teach children about masturbation, my answer to that is yes.
The question of masturbation is still a tough one, a sticky topic.
Absolutely loved the movie and crazy about the title. But was it hard to make this documentary, Nicholas, seeing that we're dealing with such a touchy subject matter, so to speak?
Yes, it was actually very hard making this documentary. In fact, it took nearly a decade. The interesting part about it, there's this polarization to the appeal. So people that really love it and get it, they're really into it, and they want to see this film, and right away from initially hearing about it, they're excited. And then there's people that have this extreme opposite, where they think they never want to watch a movie like that, and what is this, and they really shut down when talking about it. And I think that's really reflective of sort of this dichotomy we still have with this very fundamental aspect of our own sexuality today.
And it really is so sad, because we define ourselves through our sexuality. We may say, I have cancer, or I have cardiovascular disease, but we say, I am impotent, I am inorgasmic, because we really identify with that. And certainly in doing this show, one of the things that I've learned is how painful it is for people when they can't enjoy their sexuality. And a lot of it is psychological. So the people that are kind of closing doors to that, they're not doing anybody any great service, and certainly not themselves. A great job for making this amazing movie. How can our audience access your documentary?
Well, they can find us on stickythemovie.com. We try to keep up on all our VOD platforms, so any video-on-demand platforms as well as DVD releases. I know we're now available on iTunes, I believe Vimeo, Google Play, and as the weeks roll on, we're getting access to, I think Hulu's going to start picking us up, and eventually we're hoping Showtime and Netflix in the near future too. But right now,
lots of accessibility. Thank you so much. We wish you lots of good luck.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Keep your calls coming, and let's discuss sex, relationships, romance, or whatever else rocks your boat. And keep it locked on Rogers TV, because we have lots more great stuff still ahead, including your calls. So pick up that phone call so we can connect.